Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto unlocked all 5 elements at 7? Naruto Harem, Part 3. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. What the fuck is with these kids? Kakashi screamed in his mind as he dodged another barrage of kunai launched by a tripwire trap that had been set by the blonde maverick himself. In just a few minutes Naruto had booby-trapped a large portion of the forest that he was now running for his life in. Not to mention every so often Sasuke and Sakura would launch sneak attacks from behind him, only years of experience kept him from getting seriously injured. Or worse. One minute I'm chasing after Naruto, the next I am tripping over myself in a forest of pointy doom. How the kid had gotten a hold of so many kunai and explosive tags he'll never know. Backing up he felt a tug on his foot and looked down quickly to notice another tripwire against his heel. Shit. A set of explosions and kunai assaulted him from every direction which he narrowly dodged. I know I said to come at me with intent to kill, but this is ridiculous. Kakashi stopped for a moment to focus on the area around him and realized something odd. There was not a single sound around him. He leaned against a tree for a moment to get his bearings only for his eyes to go wide as ninja wire sprung up and wrapped around the tree, encircling him with near invisible wire. A sharp tug and the wires snapped taut, pinning him. Not a half moment after that, 2 shuriken flew through the air and struck his palms. Gah! Pain shot through his arms as the bladed stars tore into his hands to prevent any use of jutsu. A shadow appeared beside the one-eyed Jonin's head before darkness took him. -1 hour later. You think we overdid it? A girl's voice awakened the Jonin. Who cares? The Dobi's plan was awesome. A gruff male voice who he pinpointed as Sasuke answered. Hey, I never knew you cared, Sasuke. Nice work on the wires by the way, and the same with the shuriken, Sakura, said the current bane of the Jonin's existence. Trap master bastard, hell I'm tied up, he mentally groaned realizing he was tied to one of the training stumps of Training Ground 3. The irony of that wasn't lost on the cycloptic Jonin. I don't. You just had a good plan, retorted the Uchiha to the blonde's taunting. And thanks. No shit. The silver-haired Jonin groaned from the stump, a large black and blue welt on the visible side of his face right below his eye. Oh sensei, you're awake. Sakura giggled happily. What the hell hit me? The Jonin asked. That would be the Uzumaki special, said Uzumaki held up his left fist in front of his face and his eyes gleamed menacingly. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Taken down by a punch. I'm never going to hear the end of this once this makes the rounds at the Jonin lounge. Should have used the Sharingan from the beginning, damn it. By the way, sensei. Naruto held up both bells in his hand. Mission complete. He handed one to Sasuke and one to Sakura and grinned proudly. So do we pass or what? Kakashi hung his head in despair. He had no choice. Not only did they use more teamwork than he'd ever seen a genin team use, they had beaten him as well. Hell, they worked together like a well-oiled Chunin team. How that happened he'd never know, but in a way he was proud to have them as his team if this was just a taste of what they could do now. Yeah, you pass. I guess you figured out the meaning behind this test, right? They nodded. He sighed again. By the way, how in the hell did you lay all those traps that quickly, Naruto? And how did you get your teammates to work so well with you? Naruto scratches his head in embarrassment. Hey, as for the first one, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The clearing was filled yet again with clones of Naruto, but this time there was over 50 of them. I can make dozens of shadow clones like it's nothing. These guys were setting up traps while you were stumbling through the first ones I set. Kakashi's face turned sour. He makes it sound like I'm a complete novice. His face straightened slightly, and the teamwork. Simple. For Sakura I said I'd help her get the attention of Sasuke by helping her get stronger and keeping the other fangirls off of him. For Sasuke I said I'd help him get stronger as well as keeping a majority of his fangirls away. So you bribed them. Basically. Kakashi's sweat dropped again. Why am I not surprised? The ropes behind him snapped and he stood up, much to the surprise of the genin. Okay then, since you passed, meet me here tomorrow for mission assignments and team training, Naruto. Naruto jumped at Kakashi's raised voice. Yeah. Since you seem so adamant about helping your teammates get stronger, you'll be helping train them as well. Kakashi I smiled. He's getting back at me, isn't he? The blonde's eyebrow twitched slightly in annoyance. Till tomorrow then, I have a make-out date with an ice pack. A swirl of leaves signified his departure as the rest of Team 7 left the training grounds, two of them heading home, the other heading to his most favorite spot in the village, the Hokage Monument. Ooh. Hinata Hyuga sat silently watching the sun set in the west from the top of the Hokage Monument, the wind blowing gently through the trees, the slow shaking of the branches creating a soothing soundtrack to the view. Oh Naruto, she sighed, staring at the pale orange sunset in despair, will I ever be able to catch your heart, will you ever notice me? The Hyuga heiress sighed again and looked longingly over the village. Just one moment is all I need to tell you, but I just can't say it. Tears filled her pale eyes as a lump caught in her throat. Naruto. Hinata. The Hyuga's eyes went wide. She turned sharply to see the embodiment of her love standing not 20 feet away. NNN Naruto-kun. What or why you doing here? The pale-eyed girl's heart was about to tear a hole out of her chest. Here he was, the boy she had admired for years, the person who never gave up no matter how much hatred was thrown his way, the one who gave her courage and hope that she herself could overcome any obstacle, just standing there staring at her. It was almost too much for the girl. Naruto watched Hinata intently. He could hear the girl's heart beat faster and her breathing quickened. It was like she feared him, but the way she blushed and stuttered contradicted that. He had spent the past 4 years trying to understand what caused her to act this way around him, and so far he had no clue what the hell her problem was. Looking at her now, he felt this might be the only chance to figure it out. He had heard the last bit of what she was saying. She needed to tell him something, but what it was she felt she couldn't say. Now was the time to get her to say it. Hinata. He said again. This time it wasn't a question. He walked closer to her and noticed that the girl broke out into a cold sweat as he approached. He's walking towards me. What does he want? The girl's thoughts were spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour. So confused was she that she didn't even notice that he was standing right in front of her, his cerulean eyes gazing hard into her pale lavender ones. Her eyes widened. Eep. She squeaked out, trying to back away from him, but she only felt the edge of the monument at her back. Hinata, do you have something to say to me? The tone of his voice offered no argument. I heard you from before. You said you wanted to tell me something. What is it? His eyes never left hers while hers widened in shock. He heard me. At first she was happy that he had heard her words, but then her stomach fell. He clearly hadn't heard the first part, so he wouldn't know what she wanted to tell him. She'd have to do it now, or never. Naruto. She grit her teeth, and tried to force the words from her mouth, but nothing came. Damn it. Just 3 words. 3 damn words. Say it, say it. She jerked when she felt a pair of hands on her shoulders. Hinata, calm down and just tell me. He was close, too close, and that was it. The shy girl fainted under his touch, falling to the ground. Only, there wasn't any ground below her. Being on the edge of a cliff does that to you. Hinata. He yelled and leapt after her. Shit, she's falling too fast. I won't be able to catch her and stop our fall. Wait, that's it. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A dozen Naruto latched onto each other and grabbed the edge of the monument. The last one had a hold of Naruto's legs as he reached out for Hinata. A few more inches and he had his hands around her. Now, he screamed, latching onto what he could of the girl. Right, boss. The clones jerked them to the side, swinging them back towards the top of the mountain. They flew through the air, flying towards the treeline. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw where they were landing. He turned and cradled her body in his, putting himself between the hard ground and her. With a loud smack he struck the stone of the monument before bouncing into the soft grass of the treeline. Hinata held tightly to his chest. It took a few moments for the dust to settle, but after it did, a slight groan echoed out. You, Hinata. He shook the girl lightly, trying to wake her. Hinata, are you alright? Blood was coming from his arms and back. He could feel the burning in his limbs telling him he was hurt, but he could only care about the pale-eyed Hyuga heiress at the moment. Hinata. Please answer me. The girl groaned weakly in his arms. Hinata. His movements were frantic as he gently brushed her hair out of her eyes. Slowly those lavender orbs did open, they were half-lidded and dreamy looking. Naruto-kun, she groaned out. The tone froze Naruto. It wasn't in a friendly tone. It was something deeper, something more along the lines of lust and desire. Needless to say, it freaked him out. Hinata, are you alright? He asked timidly. Seemingly ignoring him, she drew closer, eyes still hazy. Naruto-kun, she stressed, bringing her face closer and closer to his, making his eyes go wide. Wait, his protests were cut off when her lips met his. Slowly, oh so very slowly, her tongue slid gently along his lips. Oh Kami, where did she learn to kiss like that? His eyes were wide with shock. Wait, why is she kissing me like that? His thoughts were broke off with the kiss as Hinata pulled back, still in her own little world. Hinata's eyes closed contentedly. This is the best dream ever. I just wish this could be real life, she thought quietly as she held what she thought was her imaginary crush. My Naruto-kun, I love you so much, Naruto-kun, she laid her head on his chest. Naruto's eyes widened even more. She loves me. Since when? He wondered, as he hesitantly wrapped his arms around her. Hinata was content. Even if this was a dream, she still wanted to hold Naruto. She listened to her Naruto-kun's heartbeat, feeling his warmth, feeling heartbeat. Suddenly her eyes weren't so hazy and her movements not so dreamy. She looked up into Naruto's face in shock. Naruto. She whimpered. Why yeah, this isn't a dream, is it? The pleading look in her eyes nearly broke his heart. It seemed like her whole world was crashing down around her. No, Hinata, it isn't. Her eyes widened as her face fell. Her body slowly started shaking with barely controlled sobs. He was surprised at her sudden tears. He could only watch as she cried in his arms. After what seemed like forever, he couldn't take it anymore. Hinata. He called gently while lightly shaking her, which caused her to look him in the eyes. Slowly he reached out and cupped her face with his hands, and brought her face closer to his to return the kiss she gave him. Her eyes, like his before, widened in shock. He's kissing me back. Does that mean he likes me? The girl could only go with the flow as their lips met in another tender embrace. Slowly as before the kiss broke, but this time with a smiling Naruto and a stunned Hyuga, Naruto-kun. There we go, no more tears, he threw her his trademark grin. A couple minutes of awkward silence filled the air as the two held eye contact with deep blue orbs staring into pale lavender ones. The two sat for a few seconds longer before Naruto broke the silence. Hinata, you care for me, don't you? Like really care for me? It was a simple question, but the young girl could tell that it was something much deeper than just the question, like what she answered would be extremely important. Why yes, I do, Naruto-kun. I've been watching you since the day we met. You always make me feel better when I'm around you. The girl's stuttering was all too cute for the blonde boy. He chuckled lightly, before his face grew solemn. Hinata, I have to tell you something you may not like. The girl's ears perked up at the tone of his voice. What could be so important that he'd sound so reserved like that? He sighed once. You remember what I told the class about how I have a bloodline? She nodded. Well, what I didn't tell any of you is I'm also the last member of two clans. My mother and father were both the last of their clans as well. The girl was slightly surprised that her Naruto-kun was that important, but she nodded again to show she understood. Well, the night I gained my bloodline, I was taken before the council to discuss my fate. Many of the council, especially the civilian council, hated me. The reason they hate me, Hinata, you know the story of how the Yondaime defeated the Kyuubi, right? He was sweating a bit and apprehension filled his body. This was going to be difficult to say. She nodded, getting a sinking feeling in her stomach. The Yondaime killed the Kyuubi on October 10th, the night of the attack. Only half right Hinata. Yes, the Yondaime fought and defeated Kyuubi, but no, he did not kill it. Kyuubi is a mass of chakra given form and consciousness, you can't kill that. So he did the only thing he could do to save the village, he sealed that power away. Do you know where he sealed it, Hinata? As the girl looked him in the eyes, she saw sadness within those pure blue eyes, taking what luster was there and dulling it with pain. She shook her head, but by the way Naruto was acting and how the village treated him, she could guess well enough. I hold the Kyuubi within me, Hinata. The story I told about my bloodline was for the most part a lie. The girl's eyes widened, but she kept quiet as Naruto continued. You don't have to worry about me becoming a Kyuubi reborn though, the seal on my stomach. He raised his shirt and channeled a bit of chakra to show her the seal, keeps the Kyuubi locked up tight, but that doesn't stop people from hating me, Hinata. He chuckled bitterly. Hell, they were going to put this bluntly, whore me off to those willing. When I reached an age that I was active, they would use me as breeding stock. Hinata's mouth hung open slightly. He looked at her and chuckled again. Yeah, I know, horrible isn't it? Well, thankfully Hokage Gigi thought ahead of time to counter the council's plans, knowing that my blood was now worth more than gold to them. He tried to find the right words but couldn't, so he decided to tell her about Anko. A woman by the name of Anko Mitarashi found me that night when my bloodline activated. She was like me, hated by the villagers. She was actually going to adopt me that night, but Gigi said that he had already tried that and failed, so he came up with a way for both of us to be together. Hinata's face fell at this. She could tell where this was going. I see you understand. He sighed. Yeah, to keep me away from the council and to allow Anko to care for me, he married us. Anko Mitarashi is actually Anko Uzumaki. We've been married 5 years now. A single tear fell down Hinata's cheek. To have her Prince Charming return her affections only to lose him a moment later hurt badly. But, he sighed, causing the girl to perk up slightly. There was one other thing that was talked about. The Clan Restoration Act. Under the CRA's laws, I can legally have more than one wife, and that's where this discussion is going. I know it seems shallow of me, but. Hinata, if you truly do love me like you say you do and it's not some fangirlish phase, then I'm offering the chance to you. She meant to say something, but he held a hand up to stop her. You don't have to answer me now. If you want, we can date or something to see where this goes. I've already talked this over with Anko and she's entirely cool with me dating multiple women. How she's cool with it I honestly don't know, but, yeah. He snorted a bit in amusement. Hinata looked lost as she thought over what he had said. On the one hand, she was glad that she still had a chance with Naruto, but on the other there was just something odd about being one of someone's wives. It just seemed to take the magic out of being married. But again, on the other hand, she was a rather pragmatic girl and she was also a ninja with a strict set of morals to follow. Being a whiny fangirl lusting after the perfect man and perfect wedding wasn't one of those morals, although it just so happened that the perfect man for her just so happened to be eligible and married. Would that even be the right word for his circumstances? Maybe multi-eligible would be a better description. She rubbed her hands together thoughtfully. I suppose it all comes down to one thing really. Can I share? She looked her crush in the eyes, his clear blue eyes reflecting everything back to her. They were full of life, full of love regardless of who he spent time with. He smiled again, this time one of his genuine smiles, not as big but just as infectious. Her heart melted in her chest as she sat there quietly deciding one of the greatest choices in her young life. Naruto-kun, how do you feel about all of this? I know what I feel, but what do you feel? She bit her lip nervously. Naruto stared off into the distance for a moment before speaking. Hinata, I had to choose to marry Anko. A child had to decide his future like that. Even after all this time I still feel that dull ache of loneliness. I know I can spend time with Anko and it goes away some, but it's still there. He sighed. I think it's because I didn't have anyone that cared for me in my childhood. He stared off into the distance. Until I met Anko, I was completely alone except for Gigi and the Ichirakus, and even then they were never as close as they could be. Sure, I knew them and respect them greatly, but they never gave me any love. Sure, there was affection and a lot of caring, but never anything as close as a mother or father's love, or even a lover's love, really. So to answer your question, honestly, I don't know. Anko told me that I have enough room in my heart for more than one person, and I'd like to think that she's right, but again, I don't know. Hinata seemed disheartened by that answer. Then why give me this chance at all? He chuckled lightly. Well, I can't really say, if you want a reason. He scratched his chin thoughtfully. I guess you can say I just felt like it. Her face twisted in confusion. Jay just felt like it. Hey, yeah, Hinata, I don't really know anything about being a husband or father, if that ever comes around. But I do know how to be a friend to someone. If you want to go deeper, then we can start out as friends and go from there. That's why I said we should date before we do anything drastic. She stared at her crush for a good long while. It was a difficult decision, one that she had to weigh against everything she knew, but answer she did. I'll do it. Nani. Naruto's face vaulted from his sitting posture. How that's possible, I don't know. He turned back quickly to Hinata to see a warm smile on her face. You'll do what? Date me or marry me? Both. Her smile took up her entire face. Naruto just sweat dropped at the answer. Ook. Did not see that one coming. She must really like me. Taking a few moments to compose himself, he asked. How about we make today a date then? Those were the magic words. Instantly Hinata's eyes lit up and her entire face flushed red. Oh yeah, she really likes me. A shiver went up his spine as Hinata grabbed hold of him. Let's go, Naruto-kun. There wasn't a single stutter in that sentence and she sounded like the happiest person alive at the moment. Another chill went up his spine as she pulled him back down to the village. Ooh. In a galaxy far, far away on a peaceful little planet, we find a small green creature meditating in silence. Slowly it opened its eyes and looked towards the stars in the night sky. A disturbance in the force, I sense. A great evil, awoken it has, My problem, it is not. It closed its eyes and resumed its meditation. Ooh, Naruto-kun, Hinata sang. Kami, help me. He cried, as a pair of hands grabbed him, dragging him off to another place on their date. So she's in on this whole multiple wives thing then? Anko eyed the sheepish-looking Naruto and the blushing Hinata behind him. Yeah, turns out she kinda has a huge crush on me. Naruto chuckled. Just a crush. Anko raised her eyebrow. Naruto scratched the back of his head nervously. The make out for almost an hour with tongue kind of crush. Said eyebrow disappeared into her hairline. Okay then. Anko stared at the blushing girl, who upon closer inspection was rubbing her legs together suggestively, which made Anko's other eyebrow disappear. She turned to look at Naruto in surprise. Crush nothing. This girl is about ready to jump his bones. It's only me and her modesty keeping her from following through. Damn Gaki, you bagged a minx. Anko licked her lips a little and grinned. Naruto paled when she did that. That could only mean one thing. I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. Really? Really sorry. Alright then, Hinata, come with me. She grabbed the girl and all but dragged her into an adjacent room to explain a few things to the girl. The sounds of said explanation brought a thin trail of blood from the blonde's nose, before everything went black for him. Meanwhile, in the other room, Anko was grinning madly. Well, there he went. Anko cackled mentally, knowing the boy had passed out from the noises she was getting the Hyuga girl to make. After she heard him hit the floor, she stopped her playtime to give the Hyuga girl a firm glare. Alright girlie, listen up, she snapped, making the partially violated heiress stiffen a bit. Why yes, Anko-san, the girl replied nervously, still reeling from the sensations the snake mistress avenue her. I've heard the Gaki's reasons for this little addition to the family, but now I want yours. I want to know if you really love him and why. Do it quickly before I start playing with you again. She wiggled an eyebrow suggestively, which made the younger girl blush furiously. Well, and Naruto-kun is. She blushed again just thinking about the boy. Anko smacked the girl on top of the head, quit stuttering and tell me dumbass. Owie. The Hyuga whined, rubbing the bump on her head. A look from Anko told her another would be coming soon if she didn't hurry. The girl sighed and took a deep breath. Naruto-kun. I've always admired him, ever since we met. It was that day you were chasing him to that playground. He sort of crashed into me and we talked for a minute or so before he left again. She poked her fingers together nervously. I can't say I believe in love at first sight, but I fell for Naruto-kun just like he fell on me. She chuckled a little bit with a blush. I've watched him for a long time now, and he's always inspired me to be better myself. Just watching the training he goes through when he's by himself is amazing, and I can't help but admire him. The girl blushed again. It helps that he's so with those ears and tail. She turned an even deeper scarlet when she admitted that, which caused a wide grin to cross Anko's face. So you love him then? The snake mistress prodded. Yes, Hinata nodded, with every bit of my heart. Good. Anko smiled. That's all I needed to know. Hinata stared at Anko like she was crazy, which to be fair she kind of was. That's all. Yep. As long as you really love the Gaki, which from the sound and looks of it you really, really do. Just don't hurt him and we won't have any problems. Hinata nodded, dumbly wondering just what the hell she'd gotten herself into, only to realize that Anko was staring hungrily at the girl, who let out a little eep of fear, which made Anko look turn feral as she descended on her prey. The noises of which were heard all around the forest of death, making many of the native creatures look towards the tower and somehow or another being sentient enough to sweat drop at the noise, which by all rights shouldn't be happening there. The next day, Training Ground 3. Hello team. Kakashi hailed them. Quote. You're late. Came the annoyed reply. I smiled. Sorry about that, a black cat crossed my path so I had to take another path. You do realize you could just shunshin here, right? Naruto deadpanned. But then where's the fun of the journey? Came the irritating reply, which made the three genin facepalm. Okay, fuck the explanations, let's just train and maybe stay sane enough to do a mission afterwards. Naruto growled. Oh, and just what kind of training do you want to do, Naruto? Kakashi looked questioningly at the blonde with his one good eye, not forgetting that little boast about him training his teammates yesterday. Naruto stared blankly at him, then turned to look at Sakura and Sasuke. He frowned for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Got it. Yo Kakashi, you mind if I teach Sakura and Sasuke about chakra natures? Kakashi pulled his Ika out and waved dismissively at him. Sure, knock yourself out. Subtly though, he kept a keen eye on the boy, wondering just what he was up to. Naruto sighed and turned to his teammates. Alright you two, let's see what natures you both have. He pulled out a couple of pieces of paper and handed it to them. Channel your chakra into those slips of paper. They stared at him questioningly. Just do it. He sighed. They nodded and sent chakra into the paper. Sakura's paper soaked with a corner of the paper crumbled into dust. Sasuke's on the other hand crumpled with a large corner catching fire. Both dropped their slips in shock, much like Naruto had his first time. Alright, looks like Sakura is a water element with an earth sub. Sasuke is a lightning element with a fire sub. Naruto nodded to himself, already coming up with a decent training exercise. Alright, I got something. Naruto pulled out his water bottle and tossed it to the pinkett. Alright Sakura, for you, I want you to use your chakra to try and spin the water around in that bottle. Once you can get the water spinning at a decent speed, I'll show you the next step. He glanced at the Uchiha. Sasuke, do you have a pair of kunai on you? Sasuke nodded and produced the number of kunai. Alright, now what I want you to do is hold those two kunai with the tips almost touching each other, and I want you to force chakra into one of the kunai. Then, try and arc your chakra from one blade tip to the other. If you both complete this exercise, you'll have already attained a small mastery over your main element. After you've gained a mastery over that element, I'll help you work with your secondary element. Hey Naruto. Yeah Sakura. How do you know all of this stuff? I've only read bits of elemental training, but, she looked at him, diverting her attention between him and the bottle of water. Already the water inside was slowly starting to spin. He snorted. It's quite simple, really. He held up a piece of chakra paper and pushed chakra into it, like it had several times before. It split in half twice and each corner went to one of the other 4 elements. On top of the foxy bits, I have a major affinity to all 5 major elements along with my natural bloodline element, ice. He flew through several hand signs and brought a hand to his mouth. Water release. Ms. Oripa. A small rush of water flew from his mouth and landed in a puddle nearby. Going through several other seals, he brought his hand down on the edge of the water. Ice release. Frozen wave. The water flash froze when his hand came into contact with it. Had anyone been standing in the puddle, they'd have been anchored to the ground. However, he smirked and went through a few more hand seals. Due to my affinity to the major elements and a few other things that I'm not gonna go into detail about, I can use other elemental bloodlines as well. Observe. Lava release. Lava globs. A wad of lava flew from Naruto's mouth and struck the ice, instantly causing it to hiss in protest before Naruto fired off another Mizoripa to harden the lava. So it's true then. Kakashi mused, flicking a curious eye from his book to glance at the large chunk of rock in the puddle that used to be ice. I guess what the Hokage told me is correct, but for him of all people to have a mastery of the 5 main elements and the ability to replicate other elemental bloodlines naturally without the blood of that bloodline in his veins. This team just got interesting, and if they can get their teamwork and skills up to a manageable degree, this team will be a force to be reckoned with. He noticed the looks of shock on Sakura and Sasuke's faces. Perhaps those two will learn something from Naruto after all. Sakura was watching Naruto's display with awe. Is this really Naruto? He was such a baka in the academy, always joking around, but this is just too much. She glanced at Sasuke, who had a similar look on his face as the one she now had. Sasuke for the most part was boiling with jealousy. To have that much power at your fingertips was unreal to him. Damn it, if only I had that kind of power, killing Itachi would be child's play. Maybe I can get the Dobi to teach me how he does it, then maybe. The Uchiha grit his teeth. The thought of bowing to someone lesser than him to gain power did not appeal to the proud Uchiha, even if Naruto was a decent guy and one of his few friends. The thought still sickened him. Okay. Any questions? Naruto barked, snapping the two out of their thoughts. Sakura looked at the bottle she had in her hand. Just what are you planning for us to learn, Naruto? Sakura asked curiously. Well now, that's an interesting question, Naruto mused. Toss me that bottle real quick. A toss and a pop later, the cap on the bottle was removed. What I'm going to teach you two is what I myself discovered while learning how to control my elements. What most people don't know, or at least don't think about, is how to control elements in their base forms. Most people use hand signs to shape and form a jutsu, but to be perfectly honest, you could preform jutsu without a single hand sign. Sure, you can do that with regular jutsu as well if you practice enough with it, but I mean actual control over the elements around you. He held up the bottle. Take for instance this water bottle. He spun the water in the bottle around a few times, infusing it with his chakra before taking a sip. With a sharp exhale, he spat the held water at a nearby tree, which impacted with a noticeable thud despite it being only a small amount of water. That is what I'm talking about. He pointed to the dent made in the tree. What I just did is something akin to water release. Teppadama, which creates a bullet of water from the mouth. While not nearly as strong as a teppadama, it's still useful. He walked over to Sasuke, getting inches from him. What if an enemy has gotten in close, too close for you to dodge or form hand signs? Just have a loogie or a sip of water ready and you can hit the guy in his face with the equivalent to a strong punch. Hell, you hit him in the eye and you could blind one of them. The Uchiha shivered. One of the few things he feared was being blinded, as were all Dujutsu users in a way. For lightning, he continued, as a slight buzzing noise was heard. Looking down at Naruto's hand, there was a small bit of lightning chakra on the tips of his thumb and pinky. He reached out and touched Sasuke, which made the boy jump back in pain from the sudden jolt. I call that the taser. Shocking, isn't it? Naruto cackled. Sasuke just glared at him. Oi, don't give me that look. You're lucky I toned that down. That was only about 1/4 the power I can put into that thing. If I went full out with that tap, you'd be twitching on the ground right now. Besides, I can teach you how to use that ability if you'll stop brooding for a moment. Sasuke continued to glare at him, but couldn't help but agree with Naruto. Fine, I'll let him teach me something. If anything, I can use it against him later on, not to mention that last attack was badass. The Uchiha nodded. Naruto grinned. Alrighty then. A shiver went up Sasuke and Sakura's spine. A few hours later, Mission Hall. Iruka couldn't help but snicker at the sight before him. Naruto had a wide grin on his face. Beside him and completely soaked to the bone was a waterlogged Sakura. Next to her was a smoking Sasuke Uchiha. Every once in a while a stray spark would jump between the spaces in his hair. Behind the three of them was Kakashi, who had a wide-eye smile on his face, but if you looked closer you could tell he was silently laughing at two of his more unfortunate students. Ahem. The Jonin cleared his throat to keep himself from laughing. Team 7 here for their first D-rank mission. Iruka snapped to attention. Yes, your first D-rank mission. Let me see here. The scarred Chunin dug through a small mound of scrolls to one side of him and pulled out a single scroll. This should be a decent enough challenge for your team. He tossed the scroll to Kakashi, who opened it and began to read, only to pale dramatically and stare at the now grinning Chunin in front of him. You really don't like me, do you? He groaned, which only made Iruka's grin wider. Fine. Team 7. Mission to capture Tora, accepted. 20 yards till in reach of the target, Naruto's voice over the radio whispered. Get closer and prepare to ambush, Kakashi whispered back. Roger, came the unanimous response. Moments later. AHHHRG Khmer. Naruto's voice roared out around the forest, followed shortly by a hair-raising hiss and the sound of claws tearing into flesh. Opening parenthesis. Mission to capture Tora successful. Kakashi beamed, happy to have stayed the hell away from that demon spawn of Satan known as Tora. Casualties. He looked at Naruto, who was lying in a pool of his own blood, silently cursing whatever god spawned that fucking cat and ever so slowly moving his hands in a motion that suggested he was trying to strangle something. Point 5. Now you know why I hate people, Kyuubi replied happily, using whatever mental communication powers she had to annoy the crap out of Naruto. Shut it, woman. He groaned mentally, perfectly content to let his healing power take care of the bleeding. How the hell did I get scratches on my? Funny thing that, when you passed out with the cat in your arms, you landed on her and she proceeded to tear you a new asshole. Why is there the kanji for Tora scratched into my quote ... Something to remember her by. Reet. 10 minutes and Deus Ex Machina healing later. Okay. That's last of the blood. Naruto whistled happily, that is until he noticed that the rest of his team had left. Sighing. Why do they do this to me? Maybe because you waterlogged one and turned the other into a lightning rod. Good job on that, by the way to spread misery to those around you. Yeah, whatever. Naruto stared up at the clock to check the time. I wonder why they left. There's still a good 3 to 4 hours left of the day. We could take at least one more mission in that time, couldn't we? Yeah, I don't get that about you humans. Even though there's plenty of time in the day, you still rarely do all of what you can. That kind of behavior is confusing. Well, we do tend to enjoy ourselves a lot. He nodded sagely. And the more time in the day we have to have fun, the better. After all, it's not like we can be in two places at once. Quote? Came an odd growl from Kyuubi in Naruto's mind. What's up? He was getting concerned when she didn't say anything for a good 30 seconds. Kid, what if you could be in two places at once to do more of these D-rank missions? The fox said finally, with a strange tone to its voice, something like curiosity but not. Well, that could help a lot in making some quick saws. You're thinking of using shadow clones, aren't you? A light girly chuckle filled his head. Have I ever told you how much I appreciate you? He asked sincerely. No, but you should definitely start, my vanity commands it. The two shared a quick chuckle together. With the reveal that Kyubi was less of a bitch than previously thought, it was much easier to get along with the woman, vixen, thing. Yes, please do. She licked her lips sensually in Naruto's head, which made the blonde-haired teen all kinds of uncomfortable. Great, not only do I have a sadistic and horny wife, I have a sadistic and horny demon vixen in me head, fuck my life. Gladly. She replied perkily. Not you, damn it. The boy sighed in defeat. That is until the light tapping of fingers drew his attention to Iruka, who was giving him an questioning look. Apparently the range of emotions passing over his face must have looked rather odd. Yeah, Iruka. What are you still doing here making faces, fool? The Chunin's head swelled comically to yell at our blonde-haired hero. Naruto just stared blankly, but in his head. Crikey. Here we see the big head jutsu in its natural environment. What a beautiful and dangerous creature. I'm gonna poke it with a stick. Hiss asterisk, oh it's angry. Asterisk fithahehe, the Kyubi snorted in amusement. Moments of possible insanity aside. Yo Iruka sensei, Naruto hailed him, deflating the Chunin's jutsu down to less comical levels. Yes, Naruto. The scarred man looked curiously at the boy. Can I do missions on my own as long as they are right for my rank? Iruka scratched his head trying to remember the few rules of conduct for genin regarding taking mission, and as far as he knew nothing in the books said a genin can't take a solo mission as long as it was within his level of skill. Sure Naruto, I don't see why not. What about multiple missions? The Chunin nodded, a bit confused. Well then, Naruto smiled, could I see what missions you have? He was pointed to a pile of scrolls off to the side. You kind of backed up lately, Iruka-sensei. The boy's sweat dropped at the massive tower of scrolls sitting next to the table. Well, it's not usually this bad, but yes, there are quite a few missions that don't get completed sometimes, but that's just because we're a bit undermanned to handle all the requests that come in all the time. More like the genin teams are too lazy to take more than one mission, Naruto snorted, as he dug through the pile of scrolls. Let's see. Dog walking, nope. Painting fences, no. Pulling weeds, nada. After about 10 minutes of sorting through all of the D ranks, which for lack of a better term could just be called chores, Naruto chose 5 of the ones that paid well and weren't obscenely difficult or time-consuming. He thumped the small pile down on the table, which brought a raised eyebrow from Iruka. You sure you want to take this many, Naruto? Naruto nodded. Yeah, Iruka-sensei, I'm sure. I need the money to pay for my own things, and doing D ranks is the easiest way to make money. But aren't you staying with Anko? The Chunin was curious. Everyone in the village knew that Naruto and Anko were staying together, but unlike most of Konoha, he knew that the two were actually married. Sarutobi had put a gag order on telling the populace that the two were actually husband and wife, leaving it to become a rumor, while Naruto had told Iruka after the man proved that he was a good guy and one of the few people that actually treated him as a person. But that's just it, Iruka. If anything happens and Anko can't work, it'll be up to me to handle paying for everything, and since I became an adult the moment I put this headband on, I can't just ignore my responsibility to her. Iruka would have laughed at how devoted the boy sounded towards the woman, but then he realized that this was something genuine from the boy. Anko was one of the few people who had seen him at his worst, without a mask to hide his true feelings. Her, along with Sarutobi, the Ichirakus, and himself, were the only people to truly accept him, so this was a touchy subject for the blonde. I understand, he sighed. You know, you're a lot like me, Naruto. I had to take care of myself too, though I was a bit older than you when I started. He grinned and rubbed his nose in embarrassment. If you need any help or advice, you know who to ask. I can ask you about anything. Anything. Naruto got a devious smile on his face. Oh, then can I ask you all about that, then? Iruka turned beet red. He knew exactly what Naruto was referring to, but he wasn't gonna give the genin the satisfaction to know he was getting to the scarred man. Bah! Get out of here, Anko's crazy is starting to rub off on you. Iruka huffed. marking the scrolls down and placing them on the desk in front of him. That's not all she's rubbing off. He cackled madly as he grabbed his scrolls and ran out the door, leaving a sputtering Iruka in his dust. Quote. Iruka facepalmed. Better make that face desked. Actually, better make that both at the same time. Ouch. Ooh. Ah, that was refreshing. Naruto chuckled, as he put as much distance between himself and the mission hall. Hey, even I have to admit that was pretty devious of you, Kit. The look on his face was priceless. Ohoho, this is just the beginning. The prank king of Konoha has just gotten started. Muahahaha. As much as I enjoy your semi-decent into evil, why did you choose those 5 missions, Kit? They weren't anything that special when you looked at them, aside from the fact that they're easy and pay well. You seem to put a lot of thought into them. Naruto grabbed one of the scrolls and opened it. It was a part-time job at a bakery to handle the oven in the kitchen. What in this scroll looks like it would interest me? You could almost see the fox woman's eyebrows scrunched together as she examined the mission, then a smile spread across her face. This is training, isn't it? Every one of these missions has something to do with the 5 main elements. Got it in one. He grinned. Helping at a power plant will allow me to work on what lightning jutsu I have. Working the oven at the bakery, which just so happens to be a wood-burning oven, will help my fire jutsu. Picking up trash by the river will help with my water jutsu. Clearing a field of rocks for earth jutsu and helping repair the windmills around town will help with wind. I gotta hand it to ya, only you would think to turn chores into training. Naruto shook his head. Nah, this wasn't my idea. To be honest, these jobs were originally used for exactly what I'm using them for, training. Back in the old days they were used to promote teamwork and act as a form of training. Clearing a field of stones could easily be a physical exercise. Working the ovens would increase your tolerances to harsh temperatures like you'd find in wind country. Knowing how a power plant functions could give you valuable info on how to sabotage one in an enemy village, thus causing panic and confusion, along with giving an invading squad a much needed advantage by allowing them to do their mission under cover of complete darkness. So UCD ranks, when used properly, are invaluable to a shinobi in training. And just who came up with this method of training? Naruto cracked a grin. The first Hokage, of course. How nice. The fox replied blandly. The man who first imprisoned me and his wife is also the one who'd give my newest container a great way to train in using powers indirectly gained from me. Naruto chuckled. The irony of the situation was not lost on me either. Whatever. Let's just get this over with. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable with you leaving Hinata with Anko. There was clear agitation in her voice. Concerned. Really? The raised brow showed his confusion. Just why would the fox care about someone other than itself? Unlike you, I know exactly what she is capable of, not to mention that Hyuga girl is going to be your mate, Kit, and by extension, mine, and I don't want that snake woman violating her beyond what is acceptable, at least until you can get a hold of her. A barely controlled feeling of revulsion ran down Naruto's spine. There are levels of acceptable violation. Do I want to know? There are 3. And until you are married to her, no. Okay then. As he proceeded to forget that conversation ever happened. So you think you're ready for AC rank mission, do you? The third mused as he stared at the irritated faces of Team 7. Surprisingly, Naruto was fairly calm about the whole situation. Apparently he didn't mind D ranks that much since his clones take care of most of the work. The third had noticed this while checking on Naruto through his crystal ball, to the stunned surprise of the aged Kage. That, and Sarutobi knew the kid must be loaded right now. He'd already done well over 150 D ranks that month, 5 to 6 per day, and at roughly 5,000 Ryo per mission the kid was more than well off. Roughly 50 United States dollars per mission, 250 to 300 USD per day, or between 7.5k and 9,000 United States dollars in all. Yes, sir. I believe my team has earned a chance at taking on AC rank. You could tell Kakashi was sucking up to Sarutobi. Hell, even Sakura could tell, and that's saying something. The third sighed. Well, seeing that your team has enough missions between the three of them to constitute a C rank, I don't see why they couldn't take one. He lit his pipe and took a nice long drag. I thank you, Hokage-sama. Kakashi let out a little bow. Very well, I have just the mission for your team today. He turned to a Chunin by the door. Send in the client, please. The Chunin nodded and walked out. A few minutes later, an old man wobbled in. You could tell he was drunk by the smell that followed him, not to mention the open bottle of sake in his hand. Wah, these bunch of brats are gonna be guarding me. The old man slurred. Yes, Team 7 will be escorting Tazuna the bridge builder here to the land of waves where his next bridge is to be built and will stay for the duration to protect him and his bridge from any bandits or highwaymen that may interfere with that. Kakashi turned to the Tazuna. Don't worry, sir. These three may be genin, but I am a jonin-ranked ninja and their teacher, so you don't need to fear any bandits while we're with you. Kakashi I smiled at him. Yeah, whatever. He turned back to leave the room. Meet us at the gate in 1 hour. Kakashi called out. The only response was a wave of a hand. He turned to the genin present. All right, you heard. Go pack your things and be at the gate in 1 hour. Ooh, all right. Finally a decent mission. No more of the crap work for a while. Naruto was nearly jumping for joy at the prospect of leaving the village on his first real mission, even if it was to protect some old goat of a bridge builder. It was a start and that's all that mattered. You know Hinata's going to jump you when you get back, right? The fox chuckled. I swear that girl has become so attached to you, I'm surprised she hasn't fused with your tail with how much she grabs onto the damn thing. Ugh, don't remind me. I know I only really showed the thing off once in class when I first started, but seriously, did she have to pull an Anko on my tail? Actually, I'd be more afraid of what her father is going to do to your tail. Naruto let out an unconscious shiver. Don't remind me. Generic flashback of doom, 3 weeks ago. Hinata-chan. Naruto started. The two were sitting comfortably in the Tower of Death, after Anko's little season. With Hinata, the young Hyuga had taken a liking to the place, if only to be around the snake mistress more. That and become a symbiotic life form with her ever-present center of the universe, Naruto. Or more accurately, the tail he just so happened to show her not a few minutes ago. Said girl proceeded to wrap her body around said appendage and then started to snuggle the furry thing. Hinata didn't really give a shit at that point, but it was starting to freak Naruto out. Yes, Naruto-kun, Hinata replied sweetly, his tail wrapped firmly around the girl. So are you still going to marry me and everything? I know it's been a week and we've gone on a few dates and all, but does everything feel right to you? The Hyuga girl nodded. Yes, Naruto-kun, I haven't felt happier in my life. I see you're not stuttering anymore. What happened? The blonde looked curiously at the girl. For her to stop stuttering meant she overcame the confidence issues she had told him about on their first date, but how the hell did she do it so fast? Anko's aggressive therapy helped. She smiled again, but there was a tint of red this time. Ah, that's why. A large sweat drop was starting to form on Naruto's head. Wait, I forgot to ask, how has your dad taken to us dating and our planned marriage? The girl's face fell. Oh, that's not good. I haven't told him yet, she replied sadly. He knows I'm dating you, but the marriage is still hidden from him. Don't worry, Hinata-chan. He wrapped the girl into a big hug which got the desired eep he was looking for. No matter what therapy Anko used, Hinata was still Hinata. We'll burn that bridge when we cross it. If it helps any, I'll try and get him alone and have a nice father-son chat. Really? She sounded hopeful. For you, Hinata-chan, anything. He gave her a warm smile which made the girl snuggle her fuzzy boa, aka Naruto's tail, even harder, causing some discomfort for our hero. End flashback. Naruto shivered again as a phantom pain ran up his tail. Yeah, I'll talk to her dad when I get back from this mission. Oh, you poor bastard. Thanks for the vote of confidence. She giggled like a schoolgirl. You're welcome. Quote. At the gate. He's late. Sakura growled. And you're surprised by that, how? Naruto asked, staring down at a pair of cards. Hit me, he barked at Sasuke, who dealt him another card. That's 21. Damn Doby, remind me to take you to a casino to clear the place out. How many wins is that now? 42. He replied blankly. Sasuke's face scrunched up in thought. Quote. I suddenly got a feeling that the universe is fucking with us. Welcome to my world. You'll like it here, we have cookies. Naruto replied maniacally. Make it tomatoes and you got a deal. Sasuke barked with conviction, pumping his fist in the air. Smack, smack. You two are hopeless. Sakura huffed, as the two rubbed the lumps on their heads. You're just jealous that Sasuke's hanging out with me a lot more than you. Naruto got a sly look to his face. Or is it you think something's going on between us, Yaoi Saku-chan? Smack. In your dreams, Baka, the lump on Naruto's head now had a smaller one on top of it. Naruto could only chuckle though, seeing as Sakura barely put any power behind that one or the one before for that matter. Over the past month Team 7 had bonded surprisingly well. Sasuke seemed mellower and friendlier, though that was probably from Naruto showing Sasuke how to use his lightning element, nothing like a sense of accomplishment to bring people together after all. However, when Naruto had shown him how to use the taser, a gleam that looked eerily similar to his when he pulled pranks was visible in the Uchiha's eye and that sent chills down the blonde maverick's spine. Whether they were good or bad chills had yet to be established. As for Sakura, the girl took to her water element like, well, a fish to water. It only took an abnormally large amount of partial drownings to get the girl into tip-top shape with her element. She couldn't do anything big with her reserves as small as they were, but what she lacked in power she more than made up in control. Naruto chuckled evilly. It's funny, she took the Teppadama knockoff I showed her, and refined it down to insane degrees. Now it's almost as effective as a regular Teppadama. She doesn't even need seals either, just gather chakra and bam. It is impressive, they took to their elements better than you did. Kyuubi piped in. Well duh. They had me teaching them while I had to find out everything they now know on my own, so it took me a bit longer. It's a good thing we were able to get her to learn some medical jutsu as well. Yeah. He snorted silently. Even if she's coming along nicely with water, we definitely need a medic. I know I'm a badass and all, but even I get hurt. It's definitely a good idea. Wonder why no one's thought of it before. Meanwhile, as some base awkward city in Fire Country, a blonde-haired woman sitting at a slot machine sneezed violently, causing the machine to hit trip sevens. Someone must be talking bad about me, the woman mused as she scooped her winnings into a bucket. Back with our hero, we find him winning another hand, this time at poker. Damn it. The Uchiha grumbled. Seriously dude, we need to market you as a good luck charm. What does that make it now? 69 wins. Quote. I'm getting that feeling that the universe is with us again. Don't worry, you get used to it. Naruto waved off his concern. Now deal the cards. After another 10 minutes of Naruto winning hands, Kakashi finally decided to grace them with his presence. Yo, glad to see you're all here. Naruto turned an interested look at the cycloptic Jonin. What's the excuse this time, huh? Kakashi shrugged. I got jumped by some woman on the way here. She had her way with me in an academy broom closet, and when she was finished she wanted to snuggle. Who was I to deny her? Both Naruto and Sasuke dropped their cards. Sakura dropped her jaw. Tazuna, who just so happened to be just as late as Kakashi due to him having a hangover, dropped his sake bottle, which he promptly caught before it hit the ground. No sense in wasting good booze. Naruto's laughter filled the air. Okay, if that's a lie, I'll give you a 10 for originality. Kakashi I smiled. If it's the truth, then hot damn, ha 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 ha. Well, I'll be happy to admit that you three will never know, the Jonin purred out, creeping out all of those present. Not that I'd want to know what your life is like. Naruto remarked blandly. Oh, and what would you know about a life, Mr. Virgin? Kakashi raised an eyebrow, hoping to get a rise out of the youth. Sadly, Naruto just gave him a blank look. he also raised an eyebrow which made Kakashi sweat a little when he remembered that Sarutobi said the boy was married to Anko. All he'd have to do was ask the kinky woman to do anything and she'd most likely try it. Okay then, moving on. Kakashi wisely dodged that bullet. Are all of you packed? He glanced between his three students, his gaze finally landing on Naruto, who didn't have a pack on. Naruto, where is your pack? In response, Naruto pulled a scroll out of his back pocket. Sealed up tight in this scroll, sensei. He flipped the scroll once before pocketing it. You know how to make storage scrolls? Kakashi sounded surprised and genuinely interested. Yeah, I've dabbled in the sealing arts here and there. I like making my own things, and making my own exploding tags and storage scrolls makes my life a lot easier. He grinned, hoping Kakashi would drop the subject. Alright Naruto, just don't try to learn anything that is out of your range. I don't want you accidentally ripping a part of you soul out or blowing up half of Konoha. Just be extremely careful in what you do. One wrong line can destroy a lot more than it can create. Yeah, sensei. I take every precaution when I'm practicing seals. I even use shadow clones to do the seal so I don't get caught up in anything if something goes wrong. Good. I smiled. Now let's get going. He turned away from Naruto, not catching the slight sigh of relief Naruto let out. He didn't need to know how much he knew about seals, or the real reason why he was studying them. Ooh. Hey Kakashi-sensei, how long till we get to Wave Country anyway? Naruto asked as they walked down the road leading away from the village, the trees around them blowing in the wind. Well, Kakashi looked at the position of the sun. Going at this pace we should get there by this time tomorrow. Naruto nodded and they continued walking in a comfortable silence. Kakashi stared at the pages of his Ika Ika book when he noticed a small puddle of water along the roadside, in the middle of a sunny day when it hadn't rained for weeks. That's not suspicious or anything, by the feel of it, too mid-chunin, let's see how much they've improved. He chuckled mentally and turned back to his book, silently readying a kawarimi since he was at the back of the group, thus the first target. Sure enough, two men rose from the puddle. In complete silence the two brothers Gozu and Maizu charged. In mere moments they had Kakashi wrapped up in the shuriken chain connected to their gauntlets. One down. Gozu growled, yanking the chain, and in a fountain of blood and gore bits of what was left of Kakashi hit the ground in a wet puddle. Four more. Maizu growled back. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura cried. Naruto mentally scoffed. Come on Sakura, he isn't dead. Even an idiot could tell those two were there. And if I noticed him, Kakashi sure as hell did. He didn't have time to tell the girl that as Gozu was getting too close for comfort, flipping through a couple hand seals he slapped a hand on the ground. Earth release. Earth flow spears, he yelled, as several spikes rushed up from the ground pinning the chain that connected the brothers with lances of stone. The two were jerked off their feet as the chain snapped taut, slamming them to the ground in a heap. Cut it, Maizu grunted, as the two released the chain from their gauntlets. I got the bridge builder. He got to his feet and rushed forward, clawed gauntlet leading. Naruto jumped in front of the nin and pulled his ninjutsu out, blocking the slash that would have taken Tezuna's face off. Tezuna backed up and Sakura got in front of him with a kunai ready while the blade of Naruto's sword got caught between the metal fingers of Maizu's gauntlet, causing several sparks to fly. Not bad, brat. Maizu chuckled as he grabbed hold of Naruto's blade and yanked the weapon out of his hands, but not good enough. He threw the blade away and took another slash at the blonde, who ducked aside and leapt away from him, flashing a single handseal as the demon brother chased after him. Earth release. Earth flow river. He tucked into a roll as he struck the ground. A pool of slick mud formed right behind him which the charging man couldn't avoid. As Maizu slid through the brown goo he fell back, not having any traction in the soft mud. Naruto quickly got back to his feet, going through a few more seals as he clapped his hands together. Wood release. Root binding. Out of the ground hundreds of thin roots latched onto Maizu's body, pinning him, particularly his gauntlet arm, keeping it away from the rest of his body so he wouldn't have a chase to cut himself free. Walking over to his captive he gave a swift kick to Maizu's head, knocking a few brain cells loose and keeping him from retaliating. Meanwhile, in a tree overlooking the battle, we find a shocked Kakashi. He can use Mokuden as well. Interesting. Maybe I should get him and Tenzo together. That would be an interesting meeting. Kakashi knew that Maizu was out of the fight, so he turned his attention to Sasuke. Stop dodging, you brat! Gozu yelled angrily, as each of his swipes with the clawed gauntlet flew harmlessly wide, a smirking Uchiha dodging each attack. Not a chance, bonehead. He got within Gozu's guard and a loud buzzing noise was heard. Gozu looked down and noticed a small bit of chakra on the boy's pinky and thumb. What the hell is th? His question was cut off as the digits made contact and a harsh jolt of electricity surged through his body, causing a total loss of muscle control. He slumped bonelessly to the ground, gurgling out obscenities at the Uchiha brat. I have got to thank Naruto for that. That was awesome. A rare grin crossed Sasuke's features, marveling at what his new toy could do. He tied up Gozu and walked over to Naruto, who was looking through Maizu's equipment, to the ire of the man in question, who was throwing every curse he knew at the wood-manipulating bastard, as he put it. Everybody all right? He asked as he glanced over at Sakura, who was still guarding Tazuna. Sakura nodded. Yeah, but what about Kakashi-sensei? Yo. Kakashi hailed, appearing behind them in a puff of smoke. Is an asshole. Naruto. Finished for her. Kakashi's sweat dropped, coughing to cover it. Good job, team. Now that those two are taken care of, he turned a pointed look at Tazuna, who looked nervous. Just what haven't you told us, Tazuna-san? And don't try to lie, I heard those two. He pierced the man with a heavy glare. They were after you and you alone. Tazuna looked between the four-leaf ninja for a moment before sighing. The country I come from, Wave Country, is under the tyrannical hold of a businessman named Gato. Kakashi cut in at this point. Wait. Gato. Of Gato Shipping and Transport, that Gato. Kakashi was a bit bug-eyed at the prospect. Gato was one of the richest people in the world and, from the rumors, a pretty vicious person to deal with. Tazuna scoffed. Yeah, that's him, the little troll. The bastard may look like a legitimate businessman, but on the inside he's a cruel criminal and dictator that controls what he has through force and money. He has a chokehold on my entire country, bleeding us dry of all of our hard-earned money, leaving us with little but poverty. He sighed. This bridge I'm building is going to connect us to the mainland and break Gato's hold over our country. He knows this and will stop at nothing to kill me. He turned a pleading eye at Kakashi. Please, I know I lied, but you can't leave me or my country to this fate. I know I can't pay for it now, but as soon as our country is liberated, we can easily make the money to pay for this. We'll even pay double or triple the amount. Just, please, all we want is to be free from this accursed bastard. Kakashi stared at the pleading look on Tazuna's face, thinking about what to do. Finally he nodded to himself and turned to his genin. Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura. This descent is up to you. Do we stay with the mission or go back to the village? Naruto chuckled. If all Gato's got is the likes of these two-bit thugs. He accented that little quip with a kick to Maizu's ribs, getting a grunt and a curse from him. Then we ain't got nothing to worry about. Sasuke nodded his agreement and Sakura reluctantly agreed as well. Speaking of, Sasuke interrupted, what do we do with these two idiots? Kakashi sighed. Well, seeing as you three have agreed to continue, we'll just leave them tied up here. I'll send a message back to the village to come pick them up. Won't they just get loose if we tie them up? Sakura asked. Naruto pumped his fist. Leave that to me, ha ha ha. Naruto chuckled evilly, pulling out a brush and ink bottle from his pouch. The two mist nin struggled against their bindings but to no avail. Naruto approached Gozu and opened his ink pot. With a slight dip and flourish he began inscribing the ink into his forehead. It was dance to those watching, a quick flick here, a thick curve there, ending in a somewhat elaborate pattern in the center of the mon's forehead. Once done, Naruto channeled chakra into the seal to set it. With a jolt, Gozu hit the ground unconscious, the seal setting into a small swirl pattern inside a circle. He repeated the process with Maizu, who was screaming out for his brother. that is until Naruto had his roots bind his mouth and head. He finished and completed the seal on Mizu's head before storing the rest of his supplies away, the other man like his brother before him sent into sweet unconsciousness. What the hell was that? Sasuke raised an eyebrow at the blonde. That Sasuke was a containment seal, Kakashi explained. It's a seal used by our T&I department to handle dangerous prisoners. The seal drains a captive's chakra and puts them in a stasis, kind of like a coma that can only be broken by those who know how to undo the seal. It's mostly used for transports nowadays. He turned to Naruto. Let me guess, Anko. Naruto nodded. Very well. Tie them to that tree over there and let's keep going. The three genin nodded and did as told. A few minutes later they were back on the road, but this time they were in a diamond formation with Tazuna at its center. A few hours later they reached the shores of Fire Country. A small boat was docked with a single man at the oars. Tazuna. The man greeted them. Thanks again for this. Tazuna bowed to the oarsman. No problem, just hurry up, I want to get there as quickly and quietly as possible. Right. Tazuna nodded. Him and Team 7 boarded the boat and the oarsman started the engine, setting off at a decent pace. An hour into the trip Sasuke turned to Naruto. Hey Naruto. Yeah Sasuke. I was wondering, how the hell do you know so many bloodline jutsu? As far as I know, you're an orphan, and I haven't heard of any Uzumaki clans that have a bloodline. That's where you're wrong Sasuke. Kakashi broke in. The Uzumaki clan was renowned for its mastery of Fuinjutsu. The seals they made were on par in not surpassing the skills of the fourth Hokage himself. He took a moment to let that sink in. But that in itself is not a bloodline, it's simply bred in skills. As for Naruto, his family's bloodline is Hyoten, ice release. Although it was rare even for the Uzumaki as they were a distant relative to the now extinct Yuki clan who were masters of Hyoten that ran strong in that tiny clan, however. Due to a civil war being raged in the land of water where the Uzumaki were originally from, the Yuki clan were entirely wiped out. That civil war has been raging for close to 2 decades now between the Mizukage's forces and a rebel faction of bloodline users. You see, the Mizukage has been systematically destroying any and all bloodline user clans. Shock registered between everyone on the boat, except the rower. He didn't give a shit. But sensei, why would the Mizukage do that? Sakura asked. I don't honestly know, but from the few reports we get from Water Country, bloodline users are hunted down and slaughtered on sight there. It's not a pleasant place to be. Sasuke looked disgusted. In Konoha he was loved for his bloodline, practically worshipped. He couldn't wrap his head around being hated for that very same bloodline, being hunted down like a dog and killed for something he had no control over. The very thought sickened him. Well, that answers my question about his ice bloodline, but how in the hell is he able to use lava and wood release? And for that matter, how is he able to use jutsu for those bloodlines when we don't have any Yoden or Mokuten users in the village? Kakashi was about to say something when Naruto interrupted him. It's alright sensei, I got this. Sasuke, the reason I can use multiple bloodlines is because of an accident I had when I was younger. You remember that explosion that woke everyone up a few nights before the Uchiha clan massacre? A slight bit of disgust crossed his face at the mention of the massacre, but he nodded anyway, remembering the event despite the tragedy that happened less than a week later. That explosion was me. The shocked looks. My ice bloodline activated that night and mixed in all the wrong ways with my fox bloodline. As a result, the explosion destroyed my chakra network, but due to my fox bloodline again I was able to make it back just barely from that. However, something happened to my body. Naruto looked down at his hand, clenching and unclenching it as a few phantom pains went through it. I found out later that what happened to me is called elemental convergence. The short explanation is when my chakra network was destroyed, it became neutral. When my elementally neutral chakra network was repaired, it sucked in any nearby elements and abilities. I just so happened to land in the forest of death from that explosion. When the convergence started, it pretty much turned me into a human vacuum cleaner for anything nearby. Naruto rubbed the bridge of his nose absently, glancing around his hand his 2 other teammates. It just so happened that the Forest of Death is an elementally unstable area, and I drew in all 5 major elements to such a degree that I'm a damn Rikudo Senin knockoff now, and due to that I can use all 5 major elements to an almost stupid degree of skill. He drew a deep breath before continuing. As for using bloodline elements, well, due to my affinities I can mimic quite a few of them, however ice and for some reason wood are actual bloodlines. The ice was mine originally, and I'm guessing that since I was in a forest at the time, I drew in enough of the wood element for it to become a part of me. However, I am told that the ability to use bloodline elements the way I do is, in and of itself, a bloodline that can be passed down. He smiled, seeing the 2 other genin on his team paying close attention while Kakashi was looking at him with a calculating gaze. Naruto ignored that and continued. Sure, my children may not have the affinities to all the major elements like I do, but any 2 elements that they may have can be used to power a bloodline. For example, say I have a child that has a fire and earth affinity. Even if he doesn't have the lava bloodline, my elemental mimicry bloodline would allow him to use it. Again, with the shocked looks, you'd think their mouths would hurt after a while with them sitting on the floor like that. True, the bloodline that goes with most of those elements aren't my own, but a copy can be just as deadly as an original. You'd know that, right, Sasuke? He grinned a little at the Uchiha, who knew damn well what he meant. And who's to say? Several of the doctors that looked me over said that even though I don't have those elements as a bloodline now, I could theoretically develop them into one, that or my children could, due to the mimicry bloodline affecting their DNA. So the possibilities for a family of elemental masters is highly possible. He let out a chuckle. Hell, I get more shit from the councils to marry people than you do, Sasuke. The last Uchiha deadpanned. The council pushed for him to marry someone at least once every couple weeks. He could only imagine the annoyance the council provided when they pushed for that even more. You still haven't told us how you know specific jutsu from those elements, Sakura pointed out, trying to ignore the fact that Naruto was becoming nigh unto a god among husband material. Hell, the only thing he didn't have was wealth and land, and that could be fixed simply by the way the blonde worked. She had watched him create a veritable army of clones and take out over a dozen D ranks in one day, and that equaled out to be a rather high-paying C rank mission that would normally take a month to complete. Lord only knows if he ever started taking low C ranks that were taken around the village. He'd be filthy rich by the end of the year. She glanced over at Sasuke, who was beginning to look a little lacking. Naruto grinned at Sakura. Pretty sharp there, Sakura. It's true I haven't explained that, but I do kinda owe Sasuke's family for that one, so it's not something I brag about. What do you mean, Naruto? Sasuke asked curiously. If he was indebted to his family, that could help his training in the long run. Yes. Sweet. Sweet blackmail. Well, for one thing, your family has been around for a long time and their jutsu library is massive. They even include the jutsu of other bloodline users. Even though they couldn't use them themselves, they still cataloged everything so they know what they're fighting. He pointed a finger at Sasuke. When the Sandaime cleared out your library after the massacre so no one would mess with it, he kinda let me into the bloodline section to take a look at some of the D and C rank jutsu in there. On top of that, a few of the jutsu I've used I came up with on my own, just figuring out how to manipulate that element in various ways. Honestly, it's not hard coming up with new jutsu. The others on the boat looked at him like he was retarded. Here he was talking about creating new techniques like he was talking about the weather, like it was nothing. What? Only silence answered him. 20 minutes later. We're here, the boatman grunted out, having switched out the outboard motor to a oar earlier so they could sneak into wave country under cover of mist. The boat made dock next to an Abaddon building, dropping its passengers off. I can't thank you enough. Tazuna bowed to the rower, who nodded in return. Just finish that bridge, Tazuna-san, that's all the thanks I need. The man paddled the boat back out into the mist, the 4 on land losing track of him as he disappeared from view. We better get going, Tazuna grunted. My house isn't far from here. He made his way onto a path nearby that lead further inland. Kakashi meanwhile was tense. Those last guys were Chunin rank ninja. If we're up against Gato, then he's going to send someone much stronger, probably a Jonin level nin, need to keep my senses open. Naruto interrupted his thoughts when he slowed down a bit to bring himself closer to Kakashi. Don't worry, Kakashi-sensei, I got my ears and nose tuned to the area around us. If someone's coming, I'll let you know. It wasn't more than a whisper, but it set Kakashi at ease, at least a little bit. They walked in silence for an hour, until Naruto twitched slightly, flicking a shuriken into the bushes to his left. What is it, Naruto? Kakashi spoke quickly. Anything that would get the boy to act like that with his heightened senses was something dangerous. Naruto was silent as he walked into the bushes and pulled out a snow hare who had nearly pissed itself in terror, a shuriken lodged in a tree only an inch above its head. Sakura and Tazuna relaxed, but Naruto was on edge. On closer inspection of the rabbit, Kakashi was too. They're coming, was all Kakashi said, which sent everyone on edge. What do you mean? Sasuke asked. Naruto kept his senses honed on his surroundings. It's summer, Sasuke. This rabbit still has its winter fur. That means it was kept inside out of sunlight. This is a pet and whoever its owner is. They're nearby. Sasuke finished. He ground his teeth and pulled out a kunai, readying himself for anything. Well, almost anything. Get down. Naruto yelled as he grabbed Tazuna and Sakura and pulled them to the ground. Kakashi grabbed Sasuke and yanked him down as a large blade whistled overhead, slamming blade first into a tree, nearly downing the poor plant as a man landed on the sword's handle. Well, a bunch of genin out on mission, the man chuckled darkly. Naruto looked the guy up and down. The guy wasn't wearing a shirt, so you could see he was built like a brick shithouse. The ninja wore a dark pair of pants with snow camo, arm and leg warmers, had his face covered in bandages and a kiri headband tied up on top of his head with the symbol scratched through, signifying him as a missing nin. All in all, he looked like a badass, especially standing on his sword like that, a Zanbeitu if memory served. Kakashi glared at the man. Your reputation precedes you, Zabuza Momochi, demon of the mist. And you yours, copycat Kakashi. Zabuza chuckled again. What do you want, Zabuza? Kakashi demanded. Why, the bridge builder, of course. He pointed to the man in question, who was busy making himself as small as possible under the missing nin's cold glare. Hand him over and we won't have a problem. Kakashi walked into his line of sight, taking the brunt of the killing, intent being directed at the old man. Sorry, Zabuza, but our mission is to protect Tazuna. You want him, you go through me. He laughed. I was hoping you'd say that. As he yanked his sword out of the tree and landed on the pond nearby. You three stay behind me and protect Tazuna in a manji formation. This man is way beyond any of you. Looks like I'll have to go all out on this one. Kakashi reached up to his headband. Oh, using the Sharingan already. I am flattered. Sharingan, Sasuke thought, shocked by this revelation. Be careful, he's coming. Breaking Sasuke out of his thoughts. The three genin tensed, preparing for a fight, to the death if necessary. Zabuza jumped back and landed on a small pond and began weaving hand seals. Water release. Kurigakure no Jutsu. A mist rose up from the water and smothered the area, choking out all sight. Be careful, you three. Zabuza is a master of silent killing. He doesn't need to see you to kill you in this mist. Be prepared for anything and keep your senses focused. Oh ho, so you do have some experience fighting blind, Kakashi. Zabuza's voice echoed around them. 8 points. Larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. Which one shall I attack? A chill went up two of the three genins in Tazuna's spine. Naruto, however, had a look of amusement on his face. So is that a question directed at us? Can we choose which one you strike? You could almost hear the man in the mist face vault. Zabuza's voice sounded as if he couldn't believe what the genin had said. Kakashi, is that student of yours retarded? Or did he just get dropped too many times as a baby? Before Kakashi could answer, Naruto quipped, Nah, I was just wondering how you'd react. And from the looks of things, you don't get many people as crazy as I am. Naruto let out a little psychotic giggle that had his teammates pale. They heard that laugh before when he was training them in their change in nature. So much pain. Chuckling was heard from the mist. Hey, I like this kid Kakashi. Sounds like a boy after my own heart. What's your name, kid? Naruto's grin turned feral. Naruto Uzumaki, prank king of Konoha and all-around badass at your service. Zabuza broke out in laughter. Ha 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 ha, cocky as hell. Yeah, this kid's a winner in my book. I might actually let you live after I kill all your friends, no promises though. Yeah, heard that line before, let's just do this shit. Naruto grunted since Kyuubi made that threat before, with the same result, the results being, and, all. Impatient as well, I see. Hey, very well. The three genin and one jonin tensed as the mist thickened. Naruto looked around quickly. This isn't good, I can't see a foot in front of my face. The mist was getting even thicker as he thought this. Damn it, we need an out and quick. Naruto. Kakashi whispered harshly. Flare your chakra, make it wind-natured. Naruto nodded and got into a horse stance, crouched with his legs spread slightly. He brought his hands into a hand seal. Slowly a circle of bright blue energy surrounded him. Ha! He forced as much chakra as he could into the pulse as the force of the chakra pushed the mist aside. Almost like a wave, the mist parted, revealing Zabuza a dozen feet away with a shocked expression on his face. How the hell? He gasped. What part of all-around badass didn't you get? Naruto gasped, the strain of forcing that much chakra out draining him more than he had liked. HMPH. Well, I guess I do this the old-fashioned way. He pulled his sword over his shoulder and rushed to Zuna only to be stopped by Kakashi, who blocked his overhead slash with a kunai. No chance, Zabuza. He grunted, pushing against the heavy blade. I won't let you hurt my students or my client. Well, it's not like you have a choice, he replied, hopping back for another slice. The two clashed, trading deadly blows. A slice here, a chop there, coming closer and closer in a dance of death that mesmerized the three genin and Tazuna. Kakashi ducked a horizontal chop and rushed ahead, his Sharingan spinning wildly, watching every move Zabuza made, predicting every flinch of his muscles. The only thing keeping the swordsman of the mist from being impaled was his skill in the blade he held and the countless years of experience under his belt. He brought the Zanbeitu in close and blocked the kunai with the flat of his blade, diverting it to the side. With Kakashi's guard wide, he leaned back, his blade acting as a balance, and kicked Kakashi out onto the lake. Kakashi cursed, but it was too late as Zabuza was already on him, flashing through hand seals at incredible speeds. Water prison jutsu, he yelled. A ball of water formed around Kakashi, trapping him above the water with no possible way of breaking free. Kakashi-sensei. Stay back, you three. Kakashi yelled, waving them back as best he could in the sluggishly moving water. He, it's over, Kakashi. Those brats don't stand a chance against me, and with you out of the way, this'll be almost too easy. He held up a hand in a single hand sign as his other hand was holding the water prison. Water clone jutsu. A puddle of water on land slowly started to rise, taking on Zabuza's form. Damn it, I knew he was good, but this. Kakashi was horrified. Run, you three. You can't beat him with all this water around you, and that clone of his can't stray too far from the main body. Take Tazuna and run. Looks of shock crossed their faces. They couldn't just leave their sensei behind. Naruto made their opinions vocal. Hell no. He yelled. This mission was foobar the moment you got trapped. We either help you now and die trying or get hunted down and killed anyway. At least this way there's a chance. Now shut up and hang on. We'll have you out of there in a moment. Zabuza snickered. Quite the cocky set of brats you got there, Kakashi. I do like the blondie though. Kakashi's Sharingan was keyed on the standoff. Silently, he was praying for his students' safety. Hopefully Naruto has a plan for this. Knowing his bloodline abilities, he could pull it off, but Zabuza has over a decade of training over them all. His eye flashed over the three of them. Please be careful. Sasuke. Naruto whispered. Yeah, Naruto. He replied back in a whisper, the two moving closer so as not to draw attention. I got a plan and I need your help. Sasuke nodded and leaned in closer. Naruto started whispering in his ear. For a moment shock crossed his face, then a grin began to form, slowly growing. You are one crazy son of a bitch, you know that? Tell me something I don't know. Naruto joked. My mom was. Sasuke not so joked. Didn't want to know that. You asked. He deadpanned. Naruto facepalmed, and the collective IQ of the world dropped with that statement. Whatever, let's just get this over with. He pulled his ninjutsu off his back and glared daggers at the Zabuza clone. Remember the plan, Sasuke? Don't worry. We got this, he replied. Bring out a kunai. The two shot forward, weaving between each other, trying to throw the Zabuza clone off. Naruto slashed at Zabuza's legs, who brought his Zanbeitu down to block the debilitating strike. Naruto smirked and held up a hand in a single handseal. A dozen Narutos appeared around Zabuza and tried to strike with their shadow ninjutsus, but Zabuza jumped back and swung his sword in a wide arc, cutting through the clones like smoke. Now Sasuke, Naruto yelled, bracing himself on the ground. Right. He growled back, placing a foot on Naruto's back as he leapt high into the air, tossing several shuriken to keep Zabuza on his toes. The last Uchiha fell at the missing nin with both hands charged with a taser. The water clone brought its sword up to block with the flat of the blade. Sasuke could only smirk as both his hands touched the blade. A violent arc of electricity coursed down the blade to the clone's arm. The twin tasers shocked the water clone from head to foot, causing it to burst into a puddle of water. Zabuza chuckled from his position next to Kakashi. Those kids aren't half bad, that one already has a decent grasp at elemental jutsu. You have no idea, Kakashi mumbled, which earned him an odd look from Zabuza. Alright Sasuke, phase 2 go. Naruto rushed to the water's edge, flashing through hand signs as he gathered a massive amount of chakra. He slammed his palms onto the edge of the water and shouted, Ice release, frozen wave. Zabuza's eyes flew wide. Ice release. He gasped, too shocked to even notice that Naruto had flash frozen the lake's surface, and Zabuza's feet to the ice. Meanwhile, in a nearby tree hidden from view and watching the battle, a young voice gasped as well, but that's my. The voice couldn't say any more, it only watched the fight with much more interest, keeping a closer eye on the blonde boy. Back with the battle, Zabuza was cursing. Looking down, he saw his feet were firmly frozen to the ice. He turned his eyes back to the genin only to see Sasuke throwing several kunai at him. Most of them wouldn't have been much danger to him, but one in particular was heading right for his face. With another curse, he yanked away from the kunai, dodging all of them, but in doing so released the water prison jutsu. With a quick swing of his sword, he had broken away from the ice and jumped back from the two children and the newly freed Kakashi, who was hacking up a mouthful of water. So Blondie has Hyoten as well, That kid just got a lot more interesting. Zabuza flicked a few more chunks of ice off his foot and got into a ready battle position with his blade down and to his side. Kakashi spat up the water and got to his feet. You won't lay a hand on Naruto, Zabuza. He wiped water from his mask and pulled another kunai out. You three have done enough, stay back and protect Tazuna. But Kakashi-sensei, Sakura began. No buts, Kakashi growled. He turned a glare on the demon of the mist. That same trick won't work on me twice, Zabuza. The man in question only raised an eyebrow, which looked kind of funny with his lack of eyebrows and all. Big talk for a waterlogged scarecrow, come get some then. He egged Kakashi on. In a flash, the two were crossing blades again. This time Kakashi seemed to be on even footing, as most of the water Zabuza used for his water jutsu was frozen underfoot. Zabuza noticed this. So an even battle, Fine by me. He pushed forward on the back of the blade and forced Kakashi back. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto yelled. The Jonin glanced to the side for a split second to catch Naruto's ninjutsu. He nodded his quick thanks and brought the sword to bear just in time to catch a downward cut from Zabuza's Zanbeitu. With a crunch, the ice below Kakashi buckled but held under the pressure of the clashing blades. Give it up, Kakashi. In a battle of swordsmanship, you can't beat a swordsman of the mist. Zabuza growled, kicking the Jonin away and holding his Zanbeitu up to point at Kakashi. That may be Zabuza, but I'm not just using a sword. Kakashi flipped through several hand seals with the sword still in hand and gripped his right wrist. The air around Kakashi slowly started to glow as a harsh crackling sound filled the air. What the hell is that? Zabuza asked, eyes wide at the sight. Reikiri. My own original jutsu. Kakashi growled, the lightning element chakra forming a circle of energy around him. And your death. Zabuza went into a deep kenjutsu stance, both hands on his blade. It was a purely defensive stance. The hell is with his hand? You can almost see the chakra there. What an insanely powerful technique. He tensed when Kakashi rushed him. Need to stay on my toes, one hit from that and I'm gone. Zabuza blocked the ninjutsu and spun out of the way of the Reikiri, the trailing edge of the technique, nicking him from the sheer concentrated power. Holy shit. Definitely stay away from that. And like a dance their duel resumed, Kakashi leading with the ninjutsu while he used his Reikiri to keep Zabuza on his toes, both opponents knowing he only needed one strike to finish things. Meanwhile Naruto and the others were watching the fight with awe. Naruto and Sasuke were getting a tingling in their hands. They knew that the Reikiri was just a step in magnitude above the taser in power and concentration. The two genin looked at each other and flashed a devilish grin between them, a silent agreement to try and copy the technique together. Turning back to the fight, they were shocked to see Zabuza actually putting up a decent defense, that is until Kakashi stopped leading with the ninjutsu. He switched leading hands at the last moment, shocking Zabuza, who had brought the flat of the blade up to block. The mist nin watched in horror as his blade was snapped off right above the incurve of the blade. Kakashi used his shock to land a slash across his shoulder, severing the muscle there and causing the not so heavy Zanbetu to the ground. Before Zabuza could get back and lose ground, a heel to his sternum sent him into a nearby tree. Not a moment later, 4 kunai lodged into each one of his limbs, temporarily crippling him, and if he didn't get medical attention, permanently. It's over, Zabuza. Kakashi laid the edge of the ninjutsu against Zabuza's jugular, his Sharingan lazily spinning, only for that eye to widen in horror as a pair of Senbon pierced the missing nin's neck, apparently killing him instantly. Zabuza's eyes bulged sickly as he slumped to the ground. Kakashi turned quickly, bringing the ninjutsu up in a reverse grip defense, but he lowered it a moment later when a short nin in a hunter mask dropped down from the trees. Thank you for your help, the youth's voice called out, the pitch of the voice and the size of the body meaning the nin couldn't be much older than Naruto and the others. I hope you didn't mind me taking the initiative and killing Zabuza myself. He had become quite the elusive target and I wanted the satisfaction of putting him out of his misery myself. Kakashi knelt down and placed a pair of fingers against his jugular to feel for a pulse. There wasn't one. Really dead, Kakashi mused. Standing up, he turned again to the hunter nin. It is no problem, hunter nin-san. Oh, so you know of the Kiri hunter nins? You could almost see the hunter's eyebrow raised behind the mask. The figure stood a bit taller. Yes, I am a Kiri hunter nin. Zabuza has been my target for quite some time. It's taken me a good 6 months to track the man down to wave, but I can finally call this mission completed. You have my thanks. The nin bowed and shunshine to the body. Kakashi backed away. He still kept his Sharingan out in case this was some kind of trick, but when the nin vanished with the body, he relaxed and covered the eye with his headband. He turned to his team and I smiled, then fell flat on his face. Must have overused the Sharingan, he remarked dryly as his team called out his name in worry. Don't worry, you three, I just have chakra exhaustion. Then we better get to my home so you can rest, Tazuna offered. Everyone nodded, except Kakashi, who was finding it hard to even breath at the moment, and what a time to have an itch that he couldn't scratch. Ooh, are you alright? A young woman looked down at the bed-ridden Jonin. I am fine, Tsunami-san. Kakashi said weakly. The young woman above him was a fair sight to behold to the exhausted man, and she was quite the looker too. He mentally let out a little pervy giggle as he waved the woman off. Just give me a week's rest and I'll be back to my old self. Yeah, we can't have you getting even more lazy than you already are, Naruto teased the Cyclops, who gave him a blank glare. Kakashi-sensei, just who was that ninja earlier? Sakura asked. That, Sakura, was a hunter nin. He turned his eye to stare at the girl. Each village has a division of hunter nin, however that particular nin was a part of Kiri's hunter forces. Kiri's hunters are infamous for their brutal and meticulous methods. Just why would they need a hunter nin anyway? That is an interesting question, Sakura. The main reason for hunters are to go out and capture or dispose of missing ninja. You see, just because you kill someone doesn't mean their secrets die with them. He held up a single shaky finger. Take my Sharingan for instance. If I were to be killed and my body taken, someone with enough time and patience could theoretically learn the secrets of the Sharingan and replicate them. It wouldn't be an exact copy, but just think for a moment. His eye hardened. A village that can give its entire shinobi population the ability to copy jutsu on the fly with no repercussion to its use. The thought sent shivers down their spines. Exactly. That is what hunter nin are for. They go out, find nuke nin, and if they can capture the nin, they'll take the secrets back with them. If not, they destroy the body on the spot. He let his hand fall, the explanation over. Meanwhile, in a secluded wooded area, the masked hunter nin was working over the body of Zabuza. Let's see. First, the wrappings. The nin grabbed a pair of clippers from the tool roll laid out next to Zabuza. The hunter was about to cut the bandages off Zabuza's face when a hand reached out and gripped the offending limb tightly. That's enough, Haku. I can handle this part. He gasped out. Oh, awake are you? I'm surprised. Normally you'd still be out for another hour. The newly named Haku joked. Very funny. The missing nin grouched, slowly dragging himself to a sitting position. Still feeling the senbon in his neck, he grasped the weapons and with a viscous yank that sent blood spraying everywhere, the two barbs were pulled free. Haku placed a gentle hand on Zabuza's shoulder. Please, Zabuza-sama, please don't yank those out like that or you really will end up dead. Zabuza looked up at his apprentice's face, which was covered by the emotionless hunter mask. That mask had always irked the ex-Anbu Kiri nin, not because of what it symbolized but that it was something that dredged up ghosts far gone and better left forgotten. He didn't waste time voicing his displeasure. Haku, take off that damn mask already, will you? The young hunter nin nodded and pulled the mask off, revealing a surprisingly beautiful face underneath. So what now, Zabuza-sama? The teen was curious. Just what were they going to do? Kakashi was a problem, but so were the two boys that were with him, and judging by the skill levels of the boys, the girl was most likely skilled as well. For now, nothing. I need to get back to full strength. He growled, struggling to his feet. After that, we go and kill the bridge builder. Simple as that. What about the boy with Hyoten? Haku asked, curious. If he had Hyoten, then, maybe. I'll think of something. Haku could only nod and follow along with his plans. The two nin made their way back to their hideout, to heal, and plan. Ooh. Kakashi's eyes flew wide and shot up from his futon, startling everyone in the room. What was that feeling? Kakashi's hand shook as he placed it over his face in shock. I'm getting seriously bad vibes from this. Just why the hell does it feel like I'm missing something? I know Zabuza is dead. I felt his pulse. Wait. Kakashi-sensei, what's wrong? Naruto asked. Damn it. Kakashi sighed. Hunter nin are trained to destroy the bodies of the ones they kill on the spot. You got that feeling too? Naruto asked. Kakashi nodded, making Naruto tisk in annoyance. Yeah, and? Sakura asked, confused where her sensei was going with this. What happened to Zabuza's body? Kakashi asked out of the blue. Sakura tilted her head questioningly. I don't know, the hunter nin took it away. Now why would a hunter nin who was taught to destroy a body on the spot move a body much larger than them? And on top of that, what did the hunter use to kill Zabuza? Sasuke thought a moment. Senbon, used for acupuncture. His eyes widened. No way. Way. Sasuke, Naruto grimaced. I had a feeling about it after Kakashi explained what a hunter was earlier, but I didn't think much of it until just now when Kakashi felt it too. Yeah, we fucked up. Kakashi sighed. It's highly likely that Zabuza is still alive. He trailed off as both Tazuna and Sakura gasped. But how? You checked yourself, Sakura said fearfully. Senbon Sakura, Senbon. Naruto sighed. Senbon, when used correctly, can do any number of things. For someone of Hunter Nin's skill, it's child's play putting someone in a death-like state. Kakashi nodded. What Naruto said is true. If Zabuza truly is alive, we need to be on our toes until we can prove otherwise. Regardless, we still need to keep an eye out for any other people under Gato's employ. It's not like it matters anyway, a voice said. Everyone in the room turned to a young boy who was just walking in the door. Inari. Tsunami smiled. Where have you been all this time? Hey mom, I was out for a walk. He turned to Tazuna. Hey Gramps, welcome home. He walked over and gave the old man a hug. All in all, it was a sickeningly cute display of affection. Well, it would be if the little brat wasn't looking at the ninja in the room with an apathetic glare. Inari, these ninja protected your grandpa, please greet them properly, Tsunami chided. But mom, they're just gonna die, they can't beat Gato. Naruto snorted at that. Inari turned to him with a glare. What's so funny? He demanded. Naruto chuckled for a few seconds before breaking out into full-on laughter. What's so funny? He demanded again, this time with a harsh edge to his voice. You are kid. Naruto laughed, wiping a single tear from his eye. Before Inari could bitch, Naruto cut him off. Kid, telling us that we're gonna die is like telling your gramps over there that he's gonna get a hangover from drinking too much. The only difference is we don't know when we'll die, while your gramps knows damn well when he'll get a hangover. He laughed again. Kid, we're ninja, dying is a part of the job description. We are born and raised to fight, kill and die. For our friends, family and country. His grin turned into a bit of a glare, however, thinking we'll die to some little troll like Gato is insulting. That bastard doesn't have anything going for him but his money. From what your gramps has told us, the dude is as short as you are. He has nothing to fight us with himself, he hires his power. Then, Inari began, suddenly feeling a bit out of his league in the argument. Nope. Wrong again, Naruto cut him off. We just came out of a battle with an A- class missing nin and arguably one of the best swordsmen in the elemental nations. If that big of a bastard can't kill this team, who do you think will? We're not gonna die that easily, kid. If you think that, then we can take this outside and I'll show you a thing or two about ninja. Inari had a look of shock on his face at how blatantly his beliefs had been thrown in his face. He grit his teeth in anger at Naruto, mentally cursing the blonde bastard. Who do you think you are? You have no right to come in here and talk that way to us. Do you have any idea how badly we've suffered under that bastard's rule? A ninja like you who probably has had it good all his life, what do you know? Oh, the rest of his words were cut off along with most of his air as a hand gripped his throat. It wasn't a tight grip, just enough to shut him up and hold him off the ground. Inari. Naruto. The people in the room yelled. Shut up and back off. Naruto growled at everyone in the room, his voice sounding slightly deeper as a bit of Kyuubi's chakra ran through his veins in anger. This kid needs a reality check. He tossed Inari on his. You want to know how? Good. He spat the word, my life was. The anger in his voice made Inari shake in fear. You have a family, a home, 3 square meals. He threw his hands around the room to point this fact out. Me. I'm an orphan. I didn't have any parents or family. I lived in an orphanage filled with spiteful people who would have seen me starve. I had to dig through trash and steal to even live. As for the villagers, nearly everyone in my village despises me. He spat a curse at a few choice people. For the first 7 years of my life I got glared at and ostracized by the very people I now protect. You want to call your life unfair? How about this? At 7 years old I was nearly murdered by the villagers I'm protecting, and it took me killing a dozen of them and nearly dying in the process to find someone who shared my lot in life. That woman took me in and I've been what you might call happy. If you'd get your head out of you, get used to it and grow up. He flipped off the room and walked to the door. If any of you value your life, you'll stay the hell away. You too, Kakashi, I don't want to have to explain your death to Gigi. He slammed the door behind him, A few minutes of silence passed before what sounded like dozens of explosions and the loud snapping of trees broke the silence. Kakashi-sensei, is everything Naruto said true? Sakura whimpered a little bit as an angry yell ripped through the night while bits of what sounded like splinters hit the roof of the house. Kakashi sighed. Yes, Sakura, it was all true. His eye turned sad for a moment. Naruto's younger years were quite bad, honestly. There was never really anything physical. Aside from that, the villagers have done everything they can to destroy him. His life hasn't been. Everyone in the room jumped when a piece of tree impaled itself in the front door. Good. Kakashi finished, sighing once again before laying back in his bed. The third had said that Naruto was a tad touchy when it came to his early years, but this. Best to give the boy time to work of his frustration, else he'd find a hole somewhere he didn't want it from the collateral damage. Another explosion rocked the night. Yeah, give him a day or two. Kakashi's sweat dropped.